There's too much good advice on learning out there. What we need is some tips on how to learn things terribly. So I'm gonna walk you through 10 principles that if you apply will ensure your next learning endeavor goes as horribly as possible. Let's go. Go in without a map. As the wise people say, failing to plan is planning to fail, which is exactly what we want to do. There are thousands of years worth of human knowledge we can leverage when entering a new learning endeavor. Books, podcasts, courses, and more. Why use them? Set no goals, define no gaps in your knowledge or skills, and explore no resources to help with your learning. What's the fun of learning if you already know what's gonna happen? Aren't you mature enough to decide what to do independently? Separate the learning from its intended environment. The goal of excellent learning is to apply your skills to the intended environment of application and perhaps even other environments. Why would we want that? The more abstract, unconnected, and unrelated your learning is to its intended environment of application, the better. Playing soccer? Dribble through cones made of spikes. Practicing a language? Memorize vocabulary without ever reading, writing, or speaking in the language. Finally, go to school. Number 3. Don't individualize learning to you. Every person has a different background, body, education, perspective, interest, genetics, and more, which changes how they should learn. That's why you should try your best to make your learning as similar to others as possible. It's like using a spork to cook and eat your meals. Sure, it might be nicer to have utensils fit for the job of your culture, like forks, knives, chopsticks, but then you run into the awkward situation of having to think about what utensil people would want to use. It's better to just homogenize everyone and stop worrying about it in the first place. Suck all the emotion out of your learning. Emotion makes learning stick, but we want our learnings to slide right out of our brain like a kid on a slip and slide. So suck all the emotion out of your learning. Make it as boring and abstract as you can. Learn predominantly through lectures if possible. Go even further and take yourself as seriously as possible. Every practice session is do or die. You are not a kid. You're an adult, and the very word play should give you physical revulsion. 5. Rely solely on motivation. Discipline, passion, and habits, they're endangered species when you're learning like you should. Motivation is the name of the game. Learn only when you feel like it. Procrastination is on the menu for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you really feel like it, and this is quite an accomplishment, and you should be really proud if you can do this, then you can have it as an afternoon snack too. 6. Don't learn alongside others. Was it Aristotle who said humans are social animals? Well, it doesn't take a genius to realize when you're socializing, you're not learning. They're two different words, for goodness sake. Feynman technique, observational learning, apprenticeship, that's what you want to do to learn when you have a social life, which obviously we do not. You should learn in a solitary cabin in the woods with a cigar and a glass of brandy in hand. Only when you feel you become an expert in your area should you exit your cabin and dispel your unique learnings onto the world. Learning should be like a fine wine, aged, undisturbed, and eventually useful for only pretentious conversations. Don't get feedback. Negative feedback will make you feel bad, and positive feedback will make you complacent. So why get feedback at all? The only way you can be bad at learning is if there's something you're measuring to be bad against. If you aren't measuring at all, we can just as well say you're doing great, which, if I do say so myself, feels much better. If you do get feedback, make sure it is as far away from application as possible. Inaccurate and unactionable. Prioritize the feed part of feedback with you intaking feedback and never putting it back into your learning in any meaningful way. 8. Learn as far away from application as possible. Ideally, you should be learning years ahead of when you actually want to use the learning. Spend so much time consuming information on what it is that you're learning that you don't have time to put any of it to use. Embed yourself into the noise of the internet and make diving into rabbit holes a part of your morning routine. This way, once you actually need to use your learnings, you have to learn them again, which means more learning. It's a win-win. 9. Go in with a fixed mindset. Fully believe your intelligence and skills are impossible to improve. Remember, you peaked in kindergarten. You were born this way and you will die this way. Failure of any kind can't help you because all it does is expose you to your great ineptitude and the meaninglessness of your existence on this rock that we call Earth. Stick to what you're good at and leave the things which you suck at for those with better genetics. 10. Don't allow yourself to get into flow. Most learners crave that magical state of flow in which we become so present that we lose consciousness of the self and become completely absorbed in the activity at hand. Learning becomes joyful, engaging, and fun. This state usually comes about when we attend to the present, have clarity over our goals, and stay in our Goldilocks zone by challenging ourselves just enough. That is the opposite of what we want. Flow state, more like no state. Learning should be painful, boring, even deadly, dare I say, at all times. You should riddle your environment with distractions to make it as difficult to focus as possible. You should have no idea what your goals are on any given learning session. And you should make learning either so impossibly difficult you can't do anything, or so easy it's more boring than your high school math classes. And number 11, bonus tip. Don't sign up for Self-Learning Quest, my free 5-day email course challenge. It's for video gamers that want to learn to effectively learn and find fun in learning outside of the workforce or school. You'll learn to turn learning into the most fun game imaginable, which is exactly what you don't want to do if you want to become an effective learner. You can not sign up in the description down below. I hope you have a horrible rest of your day, that you do not eat some peanut butter. As never, goodbye.